genre.
Welcome back to The Doctor's Companion presents Doctor Who The Long Way Round, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Cass Fredrickson.
I'm Nick Jimenez.
And I'm Scott Corelli.
And today on the show, we'll be discussing Boomtown, the Ninth Doctor's ninth story.
Yeah. Boomtown, this one is written by Russell T Davies. Originally, this was meant to be a historical adventure called Pompeii, which ultimately, when Russell T Davies was looking at the budget, he was like, "Hey, we can't do as much as I want to do this Pompeii episode. We don't have the money for it." So instead, he opted to do a sort of the closest thing to like of what you would call like a Dr. Light story in this season. Obviously there are no Dr. Light stories, but this is sort of like a very like down to basics, cheapest you could possibly make like a Doctor Who story and still feel like an actual episode of television.
They said Pompeii and RTD was like Cardiff.
Right, yes. Indeed. Originally this was going to be an episode. So there were two thought processes into this before he settled on Boomtown. The initial version of this was going to be something that he was going to call the New Team. That was going to be the first version of this episode, and it was going to be a small scale character oriented adventure that was sort of focused on the fact that like Jack Harkness is part of the TARDIS team now, and Mickey's jealousy of Jack traveling with the Doctor and Rose, but him being left behind. And like, what makes this guy so fucking special? You know, that kind of thing. Which we get a little of that in Boomtown, but not as much as I think this was going to be like the full focus of this episode. And then I think in over the course of the adventure, Mickey was going to realize why Jack Harkness was on the TARDIS versus himself, because he's a stupid coward. And would never would never be able to like do the things that even Rose can do as a companion, and starts to deal with that firsthand, like the fact that like he actually kind of sucks. So he approaches a friend of his named Paul Abbott, who at the time was the creator of a series called Touching Evil and Linda Green. And he was going to work on this side episode that involved Rose's life, and all of this. Now, here's what's interesting about this. This guy is working on this story, and eventually it is sort of taking him so long to get to it that he had created another show that was about to go, and he's like, I have to leave. I got to go work on this other show. And Russell T Davies is like, you're going to leave me for some show called Shameless? And he's like, yeah. So he goes and creates Shameless. And I'm just imagining the creator of Shameless writing an episode that was meant to feature Rose, Mickey, and Jackie Tyler. And I'm like, what did we miss out on?
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Gifts we would still be using to this day.
Oh my God. The fact that he's never come back around to write an episode is surprising. Maybe he'll write an episode in the new era. But in any event, he abandons the script halfway through to go and do Shameless, and Russell T Davies is like, okay, fine. What else can we do that's cheap? And he's looking around at what they have, and he's like, you know what we'll do? I've always wanted to see an episode that was predominantly set aboard the TARDIS, so I'm going to make an actual bottle episode. And I'm going to call it The Void, and it's going to be a bottle episode set on the TARDIS with the new crew, and it's going to be awesome. And then he goes to write it, and he was like, I have no idea what this is going to be about. So he abandons it because he had the concept and no story. And so as he was struggling with that, the first recording block was coming to an end after Rose and Aliens of London World War III. And during this, he was extremely impressed with Annette Badland, who played Margaret Blaine, a.k.a. the Lady Slitheen, and asked her if she would be interested in returning to the role later in the season. And she, obviously enjoying a paycheck, was like, absolutely, I would love to come back. And so he decides that he's going to write a story called Dinner with Monsters, or a date with a monster. Hold on. Dinner with a monster or a date with a monster? Dining with Monsters. There we go. So he writes this episode, Dining with Monsters, that was meant to be, he wanted to write, he was like, I'll do this and I'll tell a story about the Doctor dealing with the ramifications of corporal punishment and the death penalty. And that's what I'm going to make this story about. And so he writes it. Eventually he changes the name to Boomtown, which I think is a mistake because Dining with Monsters is a kick-ass title, and Boomtown is mostly meaningless. And I think for most people, Boomtown is like the episode that most people forget what it is. Like, what is Boomtown again? Oh, right, that one. Okay. With the surfboard. Great. You know, and so like I think it was a mistake because I think Dining with Monsters is like a really great title. Now, granted, I'm not from England. None of us are. So for all we know, Boomtown is like a nickname for Cardiff, and everyone in England knows like, oh, Boomtown, the one set in Cardiff. Yeah, we know. You know. So I don't know, but I have no idea. It'd be like calling an episode The Big Apple and being like, what does this have to do with New York? You know?
Well, I guess like the reason, I guess what I took away is like there's that part at the very beginning where the Lady Slitheen is hyping up how much this new nuclear power plant is going to put Cardiff on the map.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's going to become a boom town, like a booming economy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if they ever explicitly say like it'll be a boom town, but I think that was what I took. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Still, Dining with Monsters, I think I prefer as a title. But in any event, yeah, all the cost saving measures worked. Episode went off without a hitch, and that is the story of the making of Boomtown. There it is. Boom, boom. There it is. I will say, I think since we watched World War III on this long way around, Ted Lasso has come out. And so like I don't think last time we watched it, Ted Lasso had been a thing. So now all I see is like, oh, it's the barkeep from Ted Lasso. Like that's who she is to me now. Because she's pretty great in Ted Lasso.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, but yeah. So she's finally not the Lady Slitheen anymore to me.
Did you happen to look at her IMDb by any chance?
I did not. No.
I don't think it's 100 credits, but it's close.
Oh,
wow.
Nice.
She has been in like but it's like she'll be in Game of Thrones, but it'll be like woman holding shovel, but like she's in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Interesting.
And she's also a big stage actress.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess one other important note about this is that shooting this in Cardiff, it was the thing that inspired Russell T Davies to start thinking about a spinoff. and maybe setting it in Cardiff. And so that's how we eventually get Torchwood, which, maybe we could have done without. I don't know.
Never seen it.
Yeah, it's something. Anyway, yeah. So Boomtown is an episode personally that I want to like more than I actually do in execution. I don't love the ending of this because in terms of an analogy or whatever of corporal punishment, the solution to the death penalty presented in this is not something that we can actually do as a society. We can't turn people into an egg or turn them back into a baby and let them live their life again. So like, I don't really know what it's trying to accomplish with this ending. So that muddies the waters for me. I think it is interesting making the Doctor deal with the death penalty and taking a look at like, oh, like, if you take me to my people, you are my executioner because they are going to kill me.
Mhm.
And making him deal with that, I think is interesting. But I think in this episode in particular, it really shows off Russell T Davies' immaturity as a writer at this time versus what I know that he's capable of in the future. Like dealing with similar thematic stuff like in It's a Sin and all of the other shows that he's done. He is just such a better writer and a more mature writer now. And so there is definitely an overall sense of like immaturity, I think, in the writing here that I don't love. But a lot of really good scenes. What do you guys think? Cass?
I had actually like forgotten most of the plot of this because like when I think of this episode, I think of the scenes where the Doctor is having dinner with her. Because those are the most interesting parts of this episode to me. Like I'd forgotten like about the Rose and Mickey drama. Like I forgot Captain Jack was here. And so I had a lot of fun like kind of revisiting them. And yeah, I agree. I'm not like 100% on the ending, but this one, I like this one. I think the more I watch this one, the more I'm like, this. I like like the tone and like what he's trying to do with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he doesn't hit the bullseye with the ending.
Yeah.
He doesn't ace the wave or
Surfs
whatever
up.
the surfing equivalent of a bullseye. Surfs up. That was her earnest plan.
Yep.
I would have given anything to see it happen.
In my mind, I always remember that it does happen and that they catch her.
Mm-hmm.
But she's surfing and
Yep.
never, it's like, it's a made up memory in my brain that because I think it's because like that World War III episode is so fat shamey and finds so much quote unquote comedy out of like them being big people that it just doesn't, it feels like in my memory, like, oh yeah, that's absolutely something Russell T Davies would have done, would be like, look at the fat lady on the surfboard. Isn't that hilarious? But it's also because I hate the Slitheen and I hate what he does with them and all of the fat shaming and stuff is just so gross. And, yeah, but anyway, it's like a made up memory in my head. It's like, I totally remember her being on that surfboard, just like surfing through the galaxy and the TARDIS having to like catch her. But it doesn't happen. I'm always
and then she gets away.
Yeah.
It's like, God, one got away. I lost one, Rose. She's the first one.
Yeah. What do you think of this one, Nick?
I mean, I wish that had been the ending, but like her like getting away.
Yeah.
Because I agree with Cass where like, like the episode really comes alive in those dining scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think what I took away is like from like this being an early RTD episode is like, wow, I love watching just how immediately he wants to like poke holes in the mythos of this character that he grew up with. And what we have in those dinner scenes is this really intelligent villain, or not even, but this really intelligent antagonist that's like, hey, you've been responsible for the deaths of a lot of creatures over the years, haven't you, Doctor? Have you ever thought about what happens like after you fly away, or after you always get to leave people like just, swiping your hands, so twirling your little umbrella, and it's really cool, like in this modern version of the show, like reckoning with like the past and legacy of the show. But yeah, like 100% what Scott said. I started this episode being like, which one's Boomtown?
Yeah.
And then yeah, there's some cozy, like, this is just a fun era. So like, like when they're all at the diner and they're just hanging out and riffing, like it's fun, but like, yeah, it kind of doesn't quite hit the whatever mark it's aiming for.
Some scenes that like really stand out to me. The scene where what's the Slitheen's lady's name? Margaret, right?
Yeah.
I know it's like Blomp or whatever, but like I would rather just call her Margaret. The scene where the reporter starts asking a bunch of questions to Margaret about this Boomtown plan, and she's like, "Oh, do you want to come to the bathroom with me?" And I'm just like, "Oh God, here we go, the farting jokes." And he gets a couple of those in, but then quickly, as she's like undressing into her like Slitheen thing to like kill this reporter, the reporter starts talking about like her boyfriend and how she's pregnant and getting married and all these things, and she just starts getting like really sad and like second guessing what she's doing, and I'm like, I just really like that scene a lot. Like I just thought it was like a really interesting wrinkle to like add a third dimension to this character prior to the Doctor being forced to reckon with her third dimension as a character, like we, the audience, learn about it before the Doctor does, and I think it was a really smart way to structure that, moral dilemma, I guess.
And it's padded with like, she kills someone in the cold open, and this reporter, like through her research finds out that, Margaret has murdered like upwards of a dozen people, like prior to the episode starting. So like, I hadn't seen this episode in so long. I totally thought like, oh, this actor, this character's about to die, and so when the twist happened, I was like, oh, hey, like this is a little twist.
Yeah. I love the scene when he goes to see her and she like goes out the window. she's going out the window right now, isn't she? He's like, yeah. Yeah. It's so good. I love that.
The Rose subplot is that she has like called Mickey to Cardiff to bring her passport.
Yeah.
And that's where he meets Captain Jack. Like, oh, you lot, you're so satisfied, aren't you? You think you're so cool, but you're not.
I like your Mickey. Your Mickey is just a youthful Graham. It's like the same.
Oh, wow.
It's the same impression, but it's just younger.
Yeah, that's true. They made that connection. Because Graham's like, hi. They're both very like defensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Easily disgruntled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, he does not like Captain Jack at first.
No. Calls him cheesy. There's that weird scene where like Jack is like trying to figure out like earth slang, and so he's like piecing it together in his head, where he's like, well, okay, so this is the 21st, so that actually means good.
That means
right?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I think that was a lot of fun. the guy, her secretary, Margaret's like secretary or assistant or whatever, that guy. Apparently, when he was trying to do Torchwood, he wanted that guy to play Yanto. He wanted that to be Yanto.
Oh.
Which is really interesting because he ends up pulling the doctor, not the doctor, but the doctor from Torchwood from that episode from World War III. She's like the one that like finds the pig thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. She ends up being in Torchwood as well. So yeah, he does that a lot where he just, and then of course, what's her name from Unquiet Dead, of course, is Gwen in Torchwood. So he just like found a bunch of Torchwood people throughout the first season and was like, I'm gonna set you aside and use you later. But this guy ended up being too busy for the Torchwood thing, apparently. I think he was in a play or something. But in any event, yeah, I love all the stuff with the doctor and Margaret. I do find it slightly repetitive where they kind of have the same conversation in like 3 different locations, without too much extra being revealed in each one. So that I would say that's a mild complaint I have about it. But I still think it is interesting. And then the Mickey stuff, he's like dating someone, but was like gonna go
Trisha Delaney.
Yeah, but was gonna go like get a hotel room with Rose, which was crazy.
So, yeah,
the fact that the idea was is this the first time that like Doctor Who has like fully alluded to sex before? Like I know there's like where it's just like, yeah, they're gonna go to the hotel room and bang, like that's what they're planning on doing. Whereas like there's stuff like Jackie being, well, that's after this, right? No, that isn't Rose, where Jackie's like, anything could happen.
Oh yeah.
Right? Is that in Rose? Yeah. So there's stuff like that, but like I feel like this is like the first time where they're just like, yeah, people have sex. Which is just such a weird, I don't know. It's just such a weird, like horny thing to put in Doctor Who. I just find it so strange sometimes. It really just like, I'm like, man, it feels weird. I don't know.
If that is canonically the first time that a Doctor Who companion has like been planning on having sex, or like sex has been alluded to, I can't think of a better writer to introduce that to the show than RT.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So the timeline is, so he's like, hey, he's doing. They're like having some weird like Jean Le Carre like tete-a-tete.
the Doctor and Margaret. Yeah.
Yeah, like, do you want to like? They're gonna like, we're gonna have a nice night. We're gonna like get some dinner. We'll have some laughs, and then like later, do you want to like go to the hotel? And Rose is like, yeah, I do, actually do. And Becky's like, oh wow, great! I didn't think you were gonna say yes. That's awesome. Okay, cool. Because I think Mickey's just trying to get Rose's vibes of like, what are you a throuple with these two guys? Like, are you dating? Are you? And I think that had a lot of potential because I kind of feel like Rose was also trying to figure out like, well, wait, do I want to sleep with Mickey? Do I like the Doctor? Do I like Jack?
Yeah.
Cass, what did you think of all that?
That's a great question. I don't know. I like Rose and Mickey's like weird, like kind of awkward energy in this, because like she's still really flirty because like, she's been off adventuring and like hasn't had to deal with like the consequences of her actions, like, in like real world, whatever. And like for Mickey, like Rose is the one that like literally got away. So like it's like all this weird like tension, like it makes sense that they end up fighting in the episode. Because like they're still like, they haven't matured, like they don't know how to talk about like their relationship and like what that means and whatever. So I thought it was interesting, but it takes kind of like a backseat to like the doctor's like mind game dinner stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also just like, I think for me, I just like it. I think it would work really well if Mickey was written out of the show after this. I think it would be like a really interesting, like, oh, I have to say goodbye to my Earth boyfriend if I'm going to keep traveling with you. But like, he isn't written out of the show, and he literally comes back like next week, you know, with the finale, the 2-part finale, and then he's in like a lot, like most of season 2. So it just feels like it's a lot of talk when nothing ends up resolving out of it. Nothing comes out of this.
And knowing that doesn't help, like,
right,
when you're revisiting.
Right. Yeah.
I think my favorite parts of this is just like the idea of like, it's such a kind of a cool, having seen so much of the classic show, it's kind of a radical arc for a companion to have of her getting to discover all this and like making mistakes and kind of like, yeah, because she's kind of on shore leave, you know? And like Mickey is like, oh yeah, he's my guy back home and I'm not at sea.
Yeah. And
like, yeah, I'll have sex with my cute Earth boyfriend, you know, for a night. Cause like, what matter? I'm 19. Like, there are no rules. I can travel anytime. I'm Rose Tyler. Blah, blah, blah. And she kind of like finds out, oh, this dude has real emotion, feelings for me that don't go away when I'm off having adventures. But yeah, like literally there's a part, like Cass said, where like the camera shakes and there's an explosion noise. And he's like, I've got to go. And Mickey's like, oh, the doctor, it's always going to be the doctor, never me. Like,
God, Mickey sucks.
It's
he's
funny.
the worst.
That's another.
Oh, it's funny to me, like thinking
no,
about,
please.
like if Chris Chibnall had like written these characters, like we wouldn't just have Rose as a companion. Like Rose, Mickey, and Jackie would like all be on the TARDIS and like dealing with their bullshit.
Yeah. I don't know. I just watched this episode and all I could think about was like, what the hell did Martha see in this guy? That's,
well, I don't.
That's all I'm thinking about.
We'll get there, but I hate that. So.
That's kind of like it's like the Jacob effect of like, this would be a lot more compelling if the audience is like, I kind of want her to go with Mickey. Mickey seems really great, you know?
Yeah.
And then yeah, the plot kind of like, so she stares into the heart of the TARDIS and it overwhelms her and she's like, thank you, and then she turns into an egg.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a
goopy like a goopy egg with like tails.
Right.
Has like tendrils.
It just kind of feels like a get out of jail free card of like all of the thematic stuff that we were dealing with earlier.
Yeah. And because I was also just like, I'm like watching it and I'm just like, yeah, Russell, that would be a great way to end corporal punishment. Yeah. Just turn them back into babies and get them adopted. Yep, absolutely. I 100% agree. I don't know. Like, what are we supposed to do about that?
And like me personally, I wasn't looking at the corporal punishment angle so much as I'm like a Batman story. Like, oh, what does this say about the Doctor and how the Doctor thinks? And it kind of doesn't like do anything with that either.
Not really. No, not really.
What if Batman brought someone back to the Batcave and there was like the deadlights in the Batcave and it just turned the Riddler into a baby? You know, that's how we solved all these problems.
Yeah. I mean, he would basically be like, he'd be like the reverse angel problem. Like where the angels touch somebody and they go back in time and live to death. This is like the opposite problem where it's like, he's basically serial killing people, but like by giving them a second chance at life, you know? But like that life is over.
Like we're left to assume, like we don't cut to like her growing up to be that Slitheen again.
Right.
That's like, still sneaky and still into bondage and like all of the, great, like
Oh my God. I just realized it has been long enough. What if Margaret comes back in the new Russell era as like a teenager?
I don't think he would do that.
Right?
I don't think he would do that because that sounds more like a Moffat thing. Like,
oh, okay.
I don't know. I
like, oh, look at this, that, look.
Like the storytelling sensibility doesn't strike me as though I haven't seen like a lot of his other stuff like post Doctor Who, so I could be wrong, but like I don't know. It seems like more of a Moffat thing.
Yeah, it might be.
Like, what if that's Rose?
Oh no! Oh no! That would be a reveal. What if that's how he finally coaxes Eccleston to come back? Is they're like, I'm going to do another episode with
Fuck,
with
Margaret. I love Margaret. Damn it, I love Margaret.
Oh, that was my favorite episode. Damn you, Russell.
Damn you.
Get me my leather jacket.
It's like all the way back in his closet. And he's like, I swore I'd never put this on.
Yeah.
It's like Boomtown with a 2 instead of the T.
Anyway. Yeah. I don't know. Surfboard.
I really thought when I watched the episode, I was like, oh yeah, I finally memorized how to pronounce
their planet.
Yeah, but now it's been a few days and I forgot again.
Praxichloricopalpatorius.
Wow. Praxichloricopalpatorius.
Wow.
Because Rose finally gets it in this one.
Yeah, I love how proud of herself she is. She's very excited to have pronounced it correctly. I would be too.
And Mickey's like, oh no, they got inside jokes.
It's over, man.
Everything that happy that happens to any of them, he's just like stewing because he's the worst.
Is it being cuckolded if it's like they're like 20 years old and it's like his girlfriend?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
Oh Jesus.
Oh my God. Yeah, because they didn't officially break up, right? Like she just left. She wasn't like, okay,
Yep.
Thanks. Oh my God, that's really funny.
Because like, how are they? They literally are like 20 years old, right? Like 20, 21 tops.
I think he's a few years older than her because he's like a little kid when she's a baby.
Right. She's like 19 and he's like 21 or 22, something like that. I think.
They're really young.
That seems like very 19, of like, I'm not going to deal with this. Yeah, I'm not going to, I don't have the emotional maturity to be like, I should probably break things off with Mickey. You're like, no, I want to keep my cute boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. How long was she gone this time? Did Mickey mention that?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I am surprised that Jackie is not in this.
If there had been a moment where she was like, oh yeah, I've taken the weekend to Cardiff, I'm just shopping, and then like just like oh shit,
deal with that. See, that's the thing is like having Jackie in this episode would have been like the perfect opportunity to have a third storyline where Jack is like taking her out on the town.
Jack and Jackie? Oh my God. Okay.
Yes. Right? Imagine. She would be elate. She was like, I can't believe you're going to leave me for Mickey. You haven't seen your mother in months. And Jack's like, well, Jackie, I'll take you out. And she's like, never mind. It's fine. and just like goes out with him.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Come on.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then they go to a hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. They take Mickey's hotel. he gets hotel cuckolded.
Yeah.
Cuckolded.
Cuckold.
Yeah.
Or be super like Frasier-y if like they do go to the hotel and it becomes like, is that my mom and Jack? And like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Or Mickey and Jack both find each other getting ice, and Jackie's like, and Jack is just like,
Hey.
don't maybe don't mention this to Rose. And he's like, you think I want to get into that? No.
If that was the B plot and the A plot was the doctor staring down a woman that he's about to put to death.
10 out of 10 episode,
Incredible.
no
10 out
notes.
of 10. No notes. Yeah. Boomtown.
Boomtown. More like Bangtown.
Bangtown by Russell T. Davies.
That's the name of
Great.
the hotel that they go to. Oh, my
I wish we
God.
named these still.
Bangtown. Oh my God. Anyway.
Big episode next time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Definitely. But next round is going to be really interesting. We'll talk about that when we get to the end. What next season of Long Way Round looks like, but it's nuts. It's a pretty bananas round.
Sweet.
For sure. But yeah. We are. This is the Ninth Doctor's penultimate story. And I think we are unsure of whether or not we're gonna cover his Big Finish stuff. We might just do ourselves a favor and just be like, and that's the end of the Ninth Doctor, and we just don't cover anything in its place.
Just let him go out with a Bangtown?
Mm-hmm. Bangtown.
Nice.
Bangtown.
Forget about it, Rose. It's Bangtown.
So, anyway, we'll discuss.
I actually
that
meant
later.
the next episode of our show is going to be big because we're talking about one of your favorite episodes of all time.
Really? Are we?
No.
Or are you being facetious?
No, I'm talking about Fear Her.
Oh, yeah, right. Being facetious. Yeah, so next time we're talking about 2 10th Doctor episodes because the 10th Doctor is so lightly featured in Love and Monsters that I felt cheated not getting a 10th Doctor story. Unfortunately, the 10th Doctor story that we will be getting is Fear Her. So we're doing Love and Monsters and Fear Her, a real 1-2 punch of something terrible. But at least they'll be over instead of having to deal with both of those stories in 2 rounds of Long Way Around.
That's fair.
Before we get to anything good again on 10th Doctor. So next week or next episode, Love and Monsters and Fear Her. An episode that I used to defend and then rewatch and was like, nope, everybody who said this episode is garbage is right. Because it is. And then Fear Her, an episode that no one defends because it is bad. But
I like Shirley Henderson and I like Electric Light Orchestra, so I have that going for me.
Yep, that's exactly how I feel. Though I don't like what they do with her. So
Sure.
that's unfortunate. But yeah.
Good old Babu Freak.
So interesting double feature next round, and then we'll yeah, a lot of we hit all the Dr. Light episodes sort of in a row because our 11th Doctor is the Lodger, or which isn't, well, that's a companion Light episode, but you know what I mean. One of like those weird one-off kind of things. We're hitting all of those kind of in a row. which is fun.
Wow, did they ever do one of those for 13?
No,
I
because
don't
there was only
think
like
s-
10 episodes in a season, and then there were like 8
Yeah.
episodes in a season. So
Right. That's right. That's why. Yeah.
Oh man, 13 would have crushed in like a Lodger style episode.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. That was the thing that Russell T Davies was smarter about than Moffat. Russell T Davies knew how to do 13 episodes and structure them in such a way that it didn't kill everybody. And Moffat never got the hang of that because he was just like, why would anyone want a Dr. Light episode? Why would anyone want a Companion Light episode? I want everybody in every episode.
he wrote like the best Dr. Light episode, though. Like,
yeah, I know, but maybe he was like, well, I'm never gonna top that, so like, why bother?
yeah,
I don't
fair.
know.
But his doctor and his companions are the coolest.
Well,
So
so
they should be in every.
so yeah. That was, and then he get caught up to him, and like eventually he had to start like breaking seasons in half and like doing bending over backwards to try to like get the show made because he was like, I can't do this. I can't keep up. And I feel like Russell T Davies was just like on the sidelines being like, yeah, that structure that you got annoyed with seemed like a pretty good deal now, doesn't it? Smart guy.
Yep, now you're in Bangtown.
Yep, now you're in Bangtown. Anyway, we'll be back next time with Love and Monsters and Fear Her. Yeah. Hopefully we have more fun talking about them than we will watching them.
yeah.
Bye, everybody.